Adoption is seen throughout society as a wonderful fairy tale-like experience. You might know someone who is adopted and they may say they are fine with being adopted. But when you have spoken in depth with hundreds of adopted persons and you are yourself adopted, I guarantee you will hear a different response. Good stories are easy to tell. A not good story takes an immeasurable amount of courage and fortitude to be spoken aloud. If no one could speak it, and the adopted persons I knew were too broken to speak it, how could any of us ever get any help? This story of adoption is a compilation of hundreds of adopted persons' lived experiences, whose voices you have never heard. This is for my mother, for my father, for my children, and for every adopted person. I'll be sharing their journey from their voices in an interactive art space with you today, in the hope that you leave this place with an awareness that you never would have contemplated. This is my story, just for the record. The next little bit is interactive beginning.
Okay, let's do it.
We'll start there, if you want to fill in what you can at the top. The first part being, what's your mother's name? What's your father's name? And what name you were given at birth. So that's great, that's all good. Just want to share a little bit with you. So the bit that makes you Rosemary, the beautiful, wonderful person that you are, comes from your parents' bloodline. Their blood makes you. So you've created this spine, that part of, the bloodline where you come from. So you might find the next little bit is something else that you can write in there, is blood. The second part being all of those things from your parents' parents, and all your ancestors before you, is a DNA link that makes you who you are. Without all of those people, you wouldn't be you. The next little bit is courage, and it's a really important one. For example, on Anzac Day, you might stand for your grandfather who may have fought in the war or wars, or any of your ancestors, and you stand with pride and honour in his memory, as do most Australians. So that bit of courage is represented here by the purple hearts.
Oh.
All those things that makes you, this is your truth. You know all of this, and that's you. So the last one is the truth part. So that's where we're up to here. May I have a look, please? Okay, so Rosemary, thanks for taking the time to do that. Now don't worry about that anymore. Forget all of that, means nothing to you. All of those things makes you who you are. This is your birth record. So what we have here, representing blood, is your birth record. So flip to the B side, come around to position number 2. You are now adopted. You are now a blank slate. The importance of your reflection becomes paramount to your survival. The search for your reflection is seen through the window of opportunity, where only those of gold would be so bold as to consider you sold. Now, if you follow the line above you, the blank slates, is if you're adopted and where you come from. So you have mirror, mirror, up above, where is it you hide my love? Come along with me to see behind the unseen, to backstage courage, my family records documentary. What I've done here is what I feel is representative from the apology that is for the adopted person. So if you'd like to take the time to read through there.
Today, this Parliament, on behalf of the Australian people, you who takes adopted or removed, who were led to believe your mother had rejected you, to the sons and daughters who grew up not knowing how much that many of you still experience a constant struggle with identity are still grieving. Some families will be lost to one another forever. We remember those affected by these practices who took their own lives. We resolve as a nation to do all in our power to make shameful mistakes of the past. We are committed to ensuring that all those affected get the help they need, including access to specialist counselling services.
That actually makes me think and reflect on this last line here. So, to redress the shameful mistakes of the past, we're committed to ensuring that all those affected get the help they need, including access to specialist counselling services and support.
Yeah.
So, where is that?
Well, I guess it's really difficult to answer that because, as I said, and what I've found is that most adoptees have no idea that this even happened, let alone the rest of Australia.
That makes me feel and leaves me with the impression that as much as this statement issued by Julia Gillard was wonderful and very much needed, that it almost feels as if it was just done to tick a box. Now that something had come out into the light, they were like, oh, we need to deal with this, we need to do something about it. So they issued this, but didn't actually really follow through and almost left it up to adoptees, victims of this atrocity, to kind of do the groundwork and push for these services. So I feel like they've let you down.
To enter, you must press the doorbell and assume position 3. That'll do. Smoke and mirrors is the game. Take a pick, choose a name. Baby Lotto, they're all the same. Number 8. Oh, number 9. All right. If you'd like to enter. Now you have transported through the door. Lucky you, assume position number 4. Okay. From the bottom of the golden triangle, say goodbye to your mother's voice. Say goodbye to your gold. From your master's voice, you will be told, sit down, Merry Christmas. Loss of sound. To me, that is my mother's voice.
That really soft ringing sound.
I've replaced it in my head.
That's beautiful.
So we've just come in what I call the underground. Truth being, from 1969, 70 and 71, there was at least 10,000 babies a year that were adopted. And as shocking. Just the sheer amount of people that would have endured this, and the fact that hardly anyone knows about it. Yeah. So many people have been affected,
And that ripple effect, I can just imagine, the children of these adoptees and...
Yeah. So, again, if you were born in 1970, again, you were one of, 10,000 that year that were taken. You can see by the graph that you would know anything that peaks suddenly, you'd question what was going on.
Yeah.
So, again, they say there's up to 240,000.
So when this peaked, how was this kept out of the public eye?
Well, this might actually answer some of your questions.
The church.
Well, the government paid the churches and the church institutions for every adoption that they did.
Yeah.
So if you look yourself at that, you can, maybe establish what you think. I have my viewpoint and what's been proven, as you already pointed out in the apology, that the government takes responsibility for what they've done. So if it's called the baby scoop era, this forced adoption, and the amount of babies that were taken illegally, etc., it basically created a market in stolen babies.
Yeah.
Pretty much the goose that laid the golden egg, get the baby no matter what.
Yeah. And because it was the church doing this, do you think that's why perhaps maybe a lot of people turned a blind eye because of their loyalty to the church, because of society's loyalty to the church in Australia?
Yeah, I'm fairly confident within that and what we know now, but the actual facts, I guess, state exactly how it is, and there's been an inquiry, there is an apology, and that's what it's stating. I guess I'm pretty annoyed and angry to find this out, that it's like, to know that you were like marketed and sold off and society has no idea.
Could you go into a church now and be comfortable, or are institutions like this traumatic?
Definitely traumatic.
Yeah.
Can't. My anger is there because they haven't taken the ownership. They haven't done anything to try and help our mothers, fathers, or us as adoptees. Again, it's still the shame and the old rhetoric of like, it's, if you are unwed, and you brought shame to the church. There's so many stories of high-ranking church members finding out that someone was pregnant, and going around and knocking on their door and basically trying to, the shame, putting the shame onto our mothers in order what's best for the baby is, to have it adopted. Assume position number 5. Inside the lines and the walls of lies. You are a rock. You are an island. A rock feels no pain, and an island never cries. To find your family records of gold, follow the money trail from where you were sold. The answer, my friend, is blown in the wind. At the sight, sound, and skills baby exchange. If you follow your money trail, when you were born as an adopted person, you're an adoptee now. You came with gold, DNA, sparkly bits, blood, everything. When you got exchanged, you lost every part of your DNA, of your blood, and are a blank slate. Complete new person, new identity.
It's almost like you became a test tube baby in the way that you just came from nowhere, that you were just created and given.
Yeah, there's a lot of an alliance too that we have with test tube babies, because their story is very similar, and there's groups now of them being adults and have a similar, if not same, feeling of like, where do we come from? You need to know your identity, and the issues with test tube babies are very similar. Now to get a taste of your new favourite food. Everywhere you turn is a closet full of society's engineered attitude. Not seen, not heard, just bobbing around in the world to wipe your memory lane. Surprise! Caught in a net, in a web of lies. In your box, on your bike, on your way to the crossroads of life. Saddle up 6, love child crossroad. When we're born with an original birth certificate.
Yeah.
That was then filed when we were adopted.
Okay.
They gave us a fake new birth certificate as if born to our adoptive parents, which is a pure fabrication. Most adopted persons that I've known, their mothers named them. That name changed to something that adoptive parents chose, which is something that affects me and many others. I feel that what my mother named me, I should still be named.
What is that name, if you don't mind me asking?
She named me Colleen, a good Irish name. I think that was Irish. So yeah, born with the original, doctored into a fake one. The other really actually huge issue is in medical, and whenever as an adoptee you go to the doctor, they start asking you questions about your medical history. We have none. So the answer is always like, no, I'm adopted. For example, if any of my sons needed urgent blood or bone and I wasn't a match, then the next suggestion would be to get it off the closest family member. In a circumstance like that, my child is dead.
Yeah.
I can't do anything. I can't save my own child's life because I'm adopted.
And that seems so strange. I mean, the fact that it happened to so many people, but also that adoption happens everywhere in the world, and yet it just seems to be brushed over. And I do wonder, is it because there is this narrative that, oh, these children are lucky they've been adopted into loving families who have taken them out of, you know, a bad situation potentially, so no one thinks that there might be trauma attached even if they are adopted by beautiful, loving people.
Yeah, it's again that coming from a place that people wanting to adopt think that they may be, you know, saving an orphan, a vulnerable person. Yeah. But the driver often behind the reason for people wanting to adopt is they want a child.
Yeah.
They want a child. That promotes the market for children to be marketed.
Yeah.
It's not what's best for the child. Adoption, it changes everything. You are severed from your biological family, ancestors, knowledge, etc. What children need is guardianship. They don't need to be adopted. They don't need the ties severed. They don't need to be given a new and fake identity.
No.
They need love and care and someone to protect them if they can't be with their biological family, either parents or kin, or to have that ancestral knowledge of where they come from and who they are. Trust us, storage and removals. For your welfare, leave all your valuables in the mother's room. And wish I may, and wish I might, and wish upon a star tonight. That just represents Pandora's box. the adoption, you know, you can just plug into another mother as if it's your own.
Yeah.
It's time to face the music. It's time to lift the lid. It's time to hear from the heart. This is your life story without a start. You did not bleed from your mother's womb. You appeared magically, as you do. Inside out, over the border your mother lays. Behold, brutality strikes gold in the active form of God. Immaculately conceived are the stories you are told. Ripped from blood flow, ripped from the heart. Miracles, they say, for someone else's new start. You are now a gift from heaven. Assume position at gate number 7. And through to the mother's womb. A full net cast to the river of blood, where you are tortured, abused and drugged. Without consent, gold rush. Open the gate for number 8, sold before your time in your mother's womb, Australia, mate. So this is what I've represented as the birth canal, coming into your mother's womb. And here's a little bit up here of the rest of the apology, which I consider to be more directed to our mothers.
To you, the mothers who were betrayed by a system that gave you no choice and subjected you to manipulation, mistreatment and malpractice.
So when it says the mothers were manipulated, can you tell me a little bit about that? So what were they actually told through this process?
Manipulated, I guess, with the coercion of this is what's best for you, what's best for your baby. The lies that were told, they weren't given the truth about their options. That's the manipulation to begin with. So, and then what they said to our actual mothers is the same thing, is the guilt and the shame. You'll bring shame to your family, etc. if you have this, and the best thing for your baby is to give it up. So that worked in a lot of cases as we've gone through. There was 10,000 a year. But also, I guess how I view it now is the fact that this was happening, it normalised it. So it was like, well, so-and-so's, this is happening, this is what we all do.
Yeah.
And that's the only way, you know, to go through with this process. So it's our mothers that fought for their rights, that had their babies stolen. Some of the mothers were told their babies died. All sorts of like tragic and horrific stories. You know, even partners trying to, you know, break in and climb fences and to get to the baby, but being hauled off by the police and so on. It was all, integrated, and there was no way that you could keep your baby. There just wasn't a way. At 9, follow your magic bloodline. Adoption, adaption, sold to the system, abduction, production. This is where most people see what happened then, and it's like, well, come with me into the black hole at number 10. Welcome to far kin fairyland, where you do it yourself. Good luck with that game. Too distraught to speak publicly, left to cry alone with only shame. This way, into the black hole. So this is unheard, unseen, unknown. And I've designed this room as the adoptee room. It's our space, it's a space in our head that only adoptees have. We're pretty much stuck in here. We don't ever get to lose this bit. no matter how good or bad life gets, there's still a space. Again, unseen, unheard, unknown. And what I'll see, if there's 10 adoptees in a room, you tell me which 2 weren't abused. The odds are that's a lot of people. If there's 100 adoptees in a room, you tell me which 20 weren't abused. The figures are being quoted within the whole apology system. And again, no one's seen, no one's heard, no one knows about this. And I've only just recently been reminded that in the adoption law in 1968, there's a piece that we've been gagged as adoptees since 1968, that we cannot identify our abusers unless we have their written permission.
What?
Yep. The fine is 2 years jail or $16,000. And we're currently, Adoptee Rights Australia is trying to fight to change that. I haven't met very many adoptees that haven't been abused in a lot of forms. I think some years ago, I'm not quite sure now, but some years ago it was adoptees were 4 times more likely to suicide than regular society. And what I've just taken you through hopefully gives an understanding of why some of that is.
We are committed to ensuring that all those affected get the help they need, including access to specialist counselling services and support.
There is actually there's not one place, a physical space for adoptees to go to in this whole country. And also Lifeline are, in my mind, the ill-equipped. It's, I guess, just mind-blowing that there isn't anything set up and that it's all been, in my opinion, shoved back under the carpet. There should be so much more done. Calling for an inquiry where adoptees get to speak and share their journey and their stories is the only outcome that I see, or opportunity that we have to get an outcome. And all I want to do is go home. Tap your ruby slippers and you get to go home, and it's all a bad dream. There isn't an actual home that you ever get to because of the circumstance of what was done to your mother, and as we'll get to the fathers, there isn't a home base. So you're left homeless or without direction for your whole life, and so on. There's no safe place to get to. Whilst they were doing what they were doing to our mothers, our fathers were sent to war to fight for their country and their family, and their baby was stolen whilst they were away, and to this day they have no idea.
Yeah.
And again, another absolutely mind-blowing, how can that be? We have currently, every day now, late discovery adoptees, so people that might be 50, 45, 55, finding out today that they're adopted.
Oh, so their adopted parents never told them?
Yeah.
Oh.
Fairly common as well. So the shock and the disbelief when that happens, for men and women to not have somewhere to go. This story of adoption is a compilation of hundreds of adopted persons' lived experiences, whose voices you have never heard.
We apologise to the sons and daughters who grew up not knowing how much you were wanted and loved.
Good stories are easy to tell. A not good story takes an immeasurable amount of courage and fortitude to be spoken aloud.
Shameful mistakes of the past. We are committed to ensuring that all those affected get the help they need, including access to specialist counselling services and support.
This is for my mother, for my father, for my children, and for every adopted person.
We resolve as a nation to do all in our power to make sure these practices are never repeated.
There should be so much more done. Calling for an inquiry where adoptees get to speak and share their journey and their stories is the only outcome that I see, or opportunity that we have to get an outcome.
Yeah.
So by listening to us and learning from us, we have a lot to give in how best to care for children that are in care now. For over 50 years, Australians have not been given the truth. This is the truth. The shame and the guilt is not ours. The shame and the guilt is not our mothers. The shame and the guilt is not our fathers. The shame and the guilt belong to a system that illegally and immorally stole babies and marketed them as unwanted. The way that adoption happens suggests that a child is a blank product, which encourages the wrong kind of mentality when it comes to thinking about how best to raise a child. Adoptive parents can come to this unnatural arrangement with the notion that they can choose a child that best fits their dreams, or that they can shape that child into something that best fits, when all that child really needs is a guardian that accepts who they are and where they have come from and allows that to remain a part of their life story. Without that, a child is missing something fundamental to its founding identity, like a guitar without strings, and thus their ability to grow as they should.